Welcome to Point to Rise, your podcast that gives you permission to dream big, take messy action, and turn your talent into profit while turning your back on perfection. My name is Susanne Purcell, high performance and mindset coach, former international ballerina, profitable entrepreneur, and founder of Point to Rise, a movement designed to empower dancers. It is my mission to use my own story as an inspiration for today's generation of dancers. And now sit back, stretch, warm up, or sip your coffee and love learning how much it matters to point at yourself first to rise to all that you are capable of.
And we're back. Christy, my love, welcome to our whatever unusual environment. We're getting back into our fall routine. We just talked about seasons and how you and your husband Jay talked about that you're ready to experience some more seasons in, as in temperature, not in your life.
Yeah.
I promise there's really only coffee in here.
Well, it's interesting that you say that about seasons, because now something just came in is we've also been kind of feeling like even in life, we're in a season that we're ready to transition into something else too, where it's felt like everything's kind of been similar for a while. There's like underlying things going on and there is movement, but ultimately it just feels like a really long cycle. And yeah, I think we're feeling that on a physical level in our environment, but then also just at a soul level for us. This week, a lot came up where we feel like what really is supposed to be for the next stage for us is starting to show itself, and it's starting to come in more in a way that feels natural, not forced. And it's really nice because for a bit now, both of us have kind of been like, it feels like something's gonna change and we don't know what it is, but it feels like whatever this cycle is for us is ending, and we're shifting into something and we just don't quite know what it is yet. But it's a beautiful thing of like sitting in that, being okay.
I think, and I can so relate to that feeling. It is that joyous anticipation, and you almost don't want to know what's on the other side, because getting to the goal is like the end of the beautiful joy of anticipation that you're feeling.
Yeah. And interesting you bring up the goal and like a end thing. A lot has come up for me recently about how much of a machine program I've had, and I've been a producer and a hustler and an achiever, and it's all been about productivity up until this point. And that's really why I've been taking such a great pause these couple months, because I didn't feel well about a month and a half or 2 months ago. And during that time, all of that kind of came up of like, you're exhausting. You're always trying to achieve, but what is it really for? Is it really for service, or is there still fear underneath it where you just feel like if you're not doing something or have a goal or you're producing something that you're not worthy and you're not good enough? And what you're producing, if it's just a result to create that feeling that you are, then the energy behind the project or the thing or the aspiration or the new business or whatever it is isn't in the right energy, and it's not going to produce the results that you're looking for or the service that you're looking for those people, because there's that underlying energy. And so that for me is like, I had a lot on the assembly line, if you will, for me, that I stopped for now, because I want to get really clear. I want to get really clear about what the energy is behind it. And is it fear-based? Is it a validation thing for me? And so even to think of a goal right now, until I keep shifting this energy and this frequency higher, like beyond that, to me, the goal would only be to have like the next validation or the next thing that just makes me feel okay, I'm doing this, I'm busy, I'm working, I'm important, whatever it is. And it's not about goals right now for me, because I really, really am interested in tapping more intuitively and into the way I live. And I know, I think it's rubbing off energetically between Jay and I that we're both merging into this stage where we are ready to be really, really intuitive with our lives in a way that we never have been before.
That's beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird because I've never
No.
before. So there's a lot coming up of like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And the answer is, I don't know. And that's okay. Yeah.
It is so okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Let's jump right into our topic for today. And that is, what does it really mean to be an influencer? And I want to preface that. You and I talked pretty briefly before we hit record that was so divinely, timed and guided, because I had found myself, I would say, frustrated with watching influencers on several social media channels and really looked at them and what they were saying, how they were saying it, what they actually wanting to try to influence others with, and to what. And I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, I was appalled. Is this where we're going as a world? Is this what we're buying into because we're seeing the Gucci earrings and I don't know, the Versace necklace, and that's cool. That's where you want to go. Not saying that isn't an admirable goal. Like, I love jewelry. Yeah, I'd love to have a Versace, and I will, absolutely. But that doesn't mean that that doesn't mean that I don't see through what's going on. It doesn't mean I would do everything for it.
Mm-hmm.
It meets my goals and values without selling myself. Let me just put it down. So, and I looked around in what's going on in the performing artist kind of influencer realm, and the ballet dance kind of influencer, how certain soloists and principal dancers want to be influencers, and how they're doing is by teaching what they've been taught, and saying all of these things of, if you want to be skinny like me, you have to, stop eating at 5. And I am not okay with that. I am not okay with that. And I want to, for us today, establish what it really truly means to be an influencer, what kind of a responsibility we carry when we're stepping into that world, and also understanding that being an influencer doesn't mean you can just sit there and look pretty. It is hard work because you are consistently learning. Like, you should be more concerned about what you can learn and offer to the world, and what your new epiphanies, how they can influence others in a good way, versus you showing yourself because you even need it. I saw you writing there a lot. Yeah. That was a lot coming in. So talk to me about that, love.
Half a second before you said responsibility, that's what was in my mind. So
wow.
that came in super, super strong. That, that, to me, that word, that whatever, if you're gonna share value, and hopefully it is value, that's first of all, is there value to what you're sharing? But there is a responsibility, because whether or not you were taught to stop eating at 5 p.m. Is that really a healthy thing? It's keeping you skinny, but is that really for your highest good? or just because it's keeping you skinny. And then the little ones, or even the adults who watch you and follow you, that's a gross responsibility, because if you're being watched by little ones and they look at you in a different light, like even beyond when an influencer, like, and they idolize you, and you might be the catalyst for toxic behavior to be entered into their little worlds, that is a big responsibility that, in my opinion, shouldn't be taken lightly. And the way the virtual world now is it's so, I mean, it's global. There's such a large scope. You have no idea who you're actually talking to. So in my opinion, if you're going to take that kind of role, you need to have some kind of sensitivity to your audience and where their headspace might be, because it won't necessarily be where yours is. And then I also wrote down insecurities, because that came in too, is like, if you're able to, do you have the level of consciousness as an influencer to think about where your advice is coming from? Is it coming from insecurities of you that you're now energetically sharing with others to either validate their insecurities or perhaps develop them? So that's when we see the parade. Okay, I'm not going to say we. When I see the parading of, looks and money and showing off and all that, that's wonderful, and that's abundance, and that's great if there's some other value underlying. Or are you always just prancing around trying to show off? Because to me, that's what I was talking about, how I needed validation being a producer. Do you need validation by the recognition and the likes and putting yourself out there for the world to then comment on? Why are you being an influencer? Because you need that validation, or because you have value that you're ready to step into a platform to share with the world? I'm going to stop for a second.
No, this is so good. Okay, I'm going to share an example too, actually. I watched, I think it was last year, somebody teaching class on Zoom, big AVT, Solis principal. And these young girls, tiny, 10, 12, 14 years old, soaking every single word of that woman, that person was saying, because they wanted to be in her shoes, okay? And what came out of her mouth was, you have to work really hard. There is nobody taking care of you when you're in a company, and you need to work really, really hard until your toes bleed. And when I heard that, I got really, really angry. Something that was triggered in me, because what are we teaching this younger generation of artists coming in? We're teaching exactly the same that we were taught. And we may think, well, that has worked. She's a superstar. She has all of these contracts. She makes, I don't know, she's looked after. She can do whatever she wants to after that. But do we ever ask the question, is that actually truly fulfillment? Is she happy? Like, what is she doing that is not shown on Instagram? Like, what does the low points look like? Do I want that too? Because we only see the glamour, we only see the success, and we don't see the struggle, the daily struggle in here. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a certain level of awareness that is needed to ask these questions. Yeah, I can take anything in for face value, and I can blindly believe what they all tell me. But is that really my truth? Is this what I need? Because darn, I took on so much from everybody else around me, influencing who they wanted me to be as a dancer, as a woman, or not even a woman, just as a person, as a wife, and I was doing that to myself as a mother. So, and when we're coming into this or becoming ourselves again, we actually are able to drop all of this and be influenced by what we need, what we want. And yes, I have people in my life that I look up to, and they scare the living doo-doo out of me because where they're at. Yes, I want to be able to. I want to think like that because I know that kind of quality of life and not necessarily influence, but fulfillment
Mm.
is what, not what I want. It's what's in here that needs to come out.
Mm.
Like
Mhm.
I'm so done denying myself that I have to be a certain way, or I have to just, not be clean or whatever we want to call it, um, to be too loud. And it's that knowledge or knowing or coming to the well, not enlightenment, but that's coming in right now to the knowing that, oh my gosh, I don't have to listen to all of you. I can just do me in every single possible way. And that is for us, or for me personally, the message that I really want to convey here today is that influencers are great and you can take out whatever you need in that moment. But don't forget that you are you and that's your superpower. And you need to know who you are and what you want very precisely in order to not fall into that trap. And if you're choosing to be an influencer, know very clearly the responsibility that you carry at that moment. It is not all sunshine and rainbows. It is responsibility. It is learning, learning, learning. It is being open to not being perfect. It is being all of the self-development. We're bleeping this out for everybody that could feel offended, that you don't want to do, perhaps. And I'm talking about performing artists, particularly in that realm, that perpetuating the old learnings, the old knowledge over and over and over again. It is 2021, and it is so time to step out of that traditional thinking is truly the enemy of any kind of creative thinking.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you are not an influencer if you're just following old traditional thinking. You see the fire now?
You. I love it. I love it. There, what what just came in is there seems to be, whether it's conscious or unconscious, a level of like necessary torture to be an artist. You know, and it spans from, visual, creative, performing, all of that. There's this underlying thing that the world believes we need to be a bit tortured to be a proper artist. And in the dance world, yeah, we all had generations of slightly, you know angst or in trauma. We're all in trauma. We all have trauma.
Yeah.
Everybody holds it. It looks different for everybody, but until we work through it, we all have trauma in some sort. So we have generations of trauma filled people who just pass along the perspective of like slightly angst, and this is how you have to live in this world. And we all just, I mean, I did it too. I taught, I choreographed, I directed under the guise of that kind of energy a few years ago, because that's what I knew. Like that's what I grew up with. That's how I knew how to pass this information along. And with the influence coming into the performing arts world too, it's like a level of allowing the dance world to become kind of like Hollywood for the first time ever, where you have that, where, in Hollywood, okay, people make movies, they might be brilliant actors or directors or whatever, but somehow over this last century, they've also then become influencers of how we decide how we feel about ourselves, what we wear, what we do, how we even act sometimes because we watch it in a movie. So it's not just them being in their craft. They've in this world become like people that we idolize and emulate. And now this influencer wave is like this century's version of that, where people can get on the internet, become famous in whatever their background is, but it's like the next level or another venue for us to go to and idolize people and worship them and wish we had the car, or wish we, and it's another way for us to feel bad about ourselves when it's flaunted like that, because it's flaunted in, that they're great and they want to be idolized. So I think for the first time, dancers have never had the ability to kind of be famous out in that capacity, not in that, in a Baryshnikov capacity. There's been very few dancers before this century that have had that. So it's a really, really interesting thing. And I can imagine to have that kind of influence, you have to have a level of awareness for it not to go to your head. So it can be very easily go to your head. Which then that's where we go back to the responsibility of finding that balance of, okay, you went from, thousands of people knowing you to maybe millions of people knowing you and following your Instagram or following you on TikTok. And how can you stay humble and keep the message clear of how you want to show up and what do you actually want to help people do? And again, I'll say it one more time. Or are you just liking the fame and wanting to be in front of a camera?
Yep, basically nailed that one. Exactly. Yeah. It is such a great observation. Because when we're looking at like actors like Will Smith or Matthew McConaughey, they all are very, very well versed, not as actors, but as human beings. Look at their life, at their relationship, look at what they have built in their personal wealth. I'm not talking about money. In order to live that life, in order to keep that, ability to be wanted, to stay relevant. And that takes evolution. That takes asking yourself questions on who do I want to be? I mean, Matthew McConaughey, like he took, I don't know how many months off and just, I need to go meditate. I'm just gonna get in my bus with my dog and we're gonna drive and I'm gonna go and meditate my way through this, whatever I'm feeling right now. Because I want to become a better version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of influence that you're right. The dance industry, even Broadway, even nobody ever has even seen it as possible to have that kind of reach in the world, because we were always so in the belief of well, we have our fans that give us money, they come to the theater and we stay in our local community. And now the whole world is open.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was open before 2020, but 2020 gave, I think, the little nudge to, hey, like, I'm gonna push you off the edge. You now go and jump, and the parachute will open. I promise you.
Yep.
And it is on every single one of them. So to understand what this wonderful tool holds as responsibilities as well. And that is really what what we want to get across here is that it is a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
Because you are shaping the next generation.
Yeah.
And if you find yourself complaining that you can't get up in the morning, if you find yourself complaining that, oh, I wish I would be able to eat more, if you find yourself complaining that you're not okay with how many hours you spend in the studio, then ask the right questions. How can you change it? And lay the foundation for that next generation that you're teaching to work really, really hard in order to be successful, that they don't have to do that. Because then you truly are an influencer. Everything else really is just pitter patter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fire.
Okay. Yeah. Leave that for today. I think I want to be very transparent here. I always thought that making a difference with many, many people is the only way you can achieve or you leave legacy or I think that that's the thing. I have such a fear around leaving this earth and people not remembering me that I really want to leave something behind that has been in my soul since I'm a little girl. And on my walk this morning, I actually realized, you know what? I have already changed legacy with my pupils and with my marriage. Like nobody in my family has had a happy marriage or a happy marriage, despite the time.
Right.
Or children that are, they still look at me, they still help me, they still love me. They missed me when I was gone.
Yeah.
They still want their mom, and that already has completely changed the legacy of my family.
It's beautiful.
And I think if we're not, and I don't know if we talked about this here or if this was in a solo episode, if we don't go inwards and actually looking at where we're at, where we have come from, and where we want to go on a daily basis, we want to lose sight. And we're not going to see what we actually accomplished, nor will we be able to recognize what's in front of us. If we don't see what we have achieved already.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I found in addition to that, 100% what you said, and without going within, you don't really know if the way you look at the external world, you don't know if it's coming from you or someone else about why you're doing something or why you feel a certain way unless you go within. Yes.
All right, guys. Well, we're sending you so much love. Thank you for listening. Share your biggest takeaway. That would mean the world to us. So we know where we can dig deeper and serve you more. It would also be fantastic if you share this episode with somebody you think who needs to hear this. And until next time.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. If this message resonates with you, please pass it on to someone who needs to hear this right now. And if you like what you've heard, your feedback will go a very long way. If you just take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review, that would mean the world to me. Till next time, point at yourself to rise to all that you are capable of.